All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you to everyone out there, as always, for watching, for listening, however you are consuming Talking Buffalo. Appreciate you guys very much. Big shout out to our sponsors, Sunny Reds, 1841 Abbey Road, and also Imperial Pizza, 1035 Abbey Road, and a second location on Main Street near Canisius College. All right, Monday podcast live on the video side, Sunday night, 9 p.m. recording, which means, as usual, I'm joined by my buddy down there in New York City, Joe from Queens. All right, buddy, so far, so good. And I think everything is live on the platforms like it's supposed to be, unlike last week, which was a huge disaster. What's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm all right, man. I'm sorry. I'm late to the party. My apologies to Tooch and Ralph Wilson Jr. and Mark and whoever else is with us. I'm in my studio, we'll call it, and it's Tony's Award night or whatever. The Tonys, the musicals, whatever the freak it's called. Yeah, my wife is staying up late to watch it. So it's her holiday, basically, is kind of what she has implied to me, basically. So I was a little bit late because I had to do some bedtime stuff and blah 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 blah. So
all good, dude.
I apologize to everyone. I know you'll yell at me tomorrow at some point.
But it went under. So Tooch right away in the live chat said, what was the over-under for the start time this week? What technical issues will there be? I'm sending it at 9:09. Place your bets. All right. Well, the answer was 9:06. So actually, we improved by 3 minutes from last week.
Cool.
Lots
and it's all my fault.
No, not really. I'm happy that we're live right now because last week this went out 4 different times on stream before it finally hit on YouTube. And I'll tell you what, everybody who's listening to the show, or if you're following along on the video side live, lots we're going to get into today. I want to talk about Sean McDermott and kind of have a discussion about if a Super Bowl mandate should be placed on him this season. I got some thoughts and some examples after Joe and I are both Knicks fans, and Thibs got fired this week, which was pretty surprising the most anyway. So that kind of drew the inspiration for me to want to talk about Sean. So we're going to do that today. I got a Keon Coleman projection for you and for everybody that I did last week. I want to run that by you, see what you think. The latest on James Cook. Adam Schefter had a report on late last week. And things ain't looking too good with that situation right now. We got our weekly Mount Flushmore. I think you're doing Sabre suits, like shitty Sabre suits.
Like front office, GMs, coaches, etc., owners.
Yep.
It's a tough list to crack. So for Mount Flushmore,
our true and false segment, I'll throw some comments up here throughout the show for the people who are watching on the video side. Anyway, I want to ask you a question. All right, I didn't tell you I was going to do this because it's not a bad question, but it's just a question that I have for you. We've known each other now for several years.
Too long.
You, as much as you would hate to admit it, we're friends. We've talked a lot through the years. We've had
acquaintances.
We've had our ups and downs. We've had our beefs. Yeah. We have all of our bullshit. I feel like for the most part, though, I kind of know plenty about you, and you know plenty about me and our lives beyond just the Buffalo Bills and sports talk. Something about you that I'm curious about. So through the years, tweets, our conversations, our private, Facebook conversations, text, whatever it may be, you talk sports. We talk plenty about the content bros, the film bros.
Yep.
You make fun of me every single chance you get. Literally, I suck every day. And I'm ugly and I'm fat and, all that stuff. And I see you, you tweet about a lot of sports stuff. You have a lot of, before you crack, you got a lot of political tapes as the Bear Cracks. You talk a lot about plenty about politics, plenty, social stuff, sports, movies, TV. Like we've had disagreements about
Jesus. Get to the point.
Like
okay,
Succession.
yeah.
I'm kind of I'm painting the picture here. Relax, man.
Okay,
one thing I've never seen you talk about ever is music. Ever.
Yeah.
Which got me curious. How do I say this? do you like music? Like, are you even a music fan? Because like I've never seen you like tweet out a YouTube video or talk about a band or anything like that. Are you even not that there's anything wrong with that, but are you a music person? I don't even know that all these years later.
So that's a great question, and I have a little bit of backstory on that. It's not really a great question, but it's something I could definitely talk about. So it's all right. So growing up, up until I was 12 years old, I would say I did not care much about music. I did take piano lessons, but I never really listened to whatever was on the radio. I knew songs, like I knew Madonna stuff because my sister, who is around your age, probably. She's 10 years older than me. She used to always listen to Madonna. So I listened to her a lot, like in the car, and I'm like, oh, she's not bad. She's cool. But I wasn't a huge fan. Then around when I was like 13, 14, call it like I had just gotten to high school and I kind of wanted to have conversations with people about music. So I just was like, you know what? I'm going to start getting into music. So I got into like, I don't know, in like 94, like alternative music was big. So it was like Green Day, Nirvana, Offspring. Then I started going more into hip hop a little bit. Like I liked Ice Cube, Dre.
Yeah.
Who else did I like there? Wu-Tang, like those stuff. Like I kind of got into. Then I liked techno music. So I liked all this music from like 94 until 02, I would say. And it made me want to get into, I wanted to work in television, etc. And I wanted to work. One of my goals was I wanted to work at MTV, and that was like, I don't know what it was. It was like the culture. I was a big TRL guy, and I don't know if you watched TRL. I know you were in like your late 20s or who knows, but yeah, I love TRL. I watched it at my parents' pizzeria when I used to work. I used to watch it after I got home from college. I was like, I want to go work for that show. That show would be awesome. Or MTV News. Like, give me there. So I got an internship at MTV, got there in the summer of 02. And then I got a job there as a freelancer at News and Documentaries, which did things like MTV Cribs, it did True Life, did a bunch of other stuff. And I did some music projects, which I really liked. Like I did this series called Ultrasound, which was like a magazine style show with talking heads talking about whatever. Just, I did the Hip Hop Dollars, which is like how rappers made a lot of money, something like that, and how they didn't really make that much and the record company stole it and all this sort of stuff. So where I'm getting at is by 04, 05, I still was into music. I knew it was hot. I was like, listening to everything. MTV completely changed. It went from we're doing music to complete reality television, which I'm still in today as we speak. We're kind of into it. It's hit a freaking wall basically. But at that point, I was like, all right, sweet. Like I was kind of out of it, and it just happened quick. And at that point, from like 07 on, I like didn't care about new music, and I just was like, and I think part of it was like I was a little bit pissed off of how it ended, like because I packed all my shit, and my dream was to work at MTV and work in music, and like I'm going to work on TRL or I'm going to work on these, and then it completely changed, and it just was gone. And it was kind of, I would say like, I have no clue what's hot. Like I had to have my sister-in-law fill me in on the Drake beef with Kendrick Lamar. I had no clue. And I was like, what songs are out there? Like I completely, and I wasn't like, I'm not like you who's like, oh, I love the classics. I'm going to keep it going forever. I'm just like done. I'm numb to it. I listen to podcasts mostly. I used to listen to my play track when I used to go to the gym, like stuff to pump me up, but that was it. So yeah, you're right. I don't, if it was like 15, 20 years ago and Twitter was around, yeah, I was into Eminem, I was into Jay-Z, I was into Nas and all this shit. And like, I liked techno even, I liked everything. And then once I got out of MTV and I was kind of pissed, I couldn't watch the channel because I was so annoyed at how it just, then, I can go in more details about how it went. The network changed and I kind of got not axed, but like a lot of people weren't working anymore there and it sucked. So I was like, the hell with this crap. And yeah, that's why I don't really talk too much about it. I could talk about it in like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, but I have no clue what's been hot since 20. Like I know some Taylor Swift stuff because we play for our kid to get him to sleep sometimes, but yeah, it's
Taylor Swift is sleep medicine to the boy.
Yeah, Andrew loves Cruel Summer he loves. That's on his playlist.
No, I love Taylor Swift, man.
Yeah, but Tooch, you say Joe likes Coldplay. It's funny you mentioned that. I actually met that guy, the lead singer. I had no clue who he was. It was in 2002 as an intern. And we saw him play an acoustic set in front of me. I was an intern, and he did it on the 29th floor of 1515 Broadway. And I didn't know who he was. It was before Coldplay got huge. And I was like, oh, wow, they got big. I met him. I met Avril Lavigne. I met Green Day. I was at an interview in Vegas with them when I worked for this channel called Fuse. I didn't interview them, but I was the AP, the mid-level guy that was there with the producer and the talent. So, yeah, in the early 2000s, I was doing all the music stuff. I wanted to do it. And then that was it. So, and no, Tooch is talking about Diddy's freak-offs. I did not go to any of those.
No Diddy freak off.
No, but there were rumors. I talked to my, it's funny. I had dinner. Two of my friends who actually, they still work in the business, but they were both bigger at MTV than I was. They told me they heard all these rumors about him and his freak offs, from other girls and people like that. So yeah, but that's why I don't really talk too much about it. So
I was just wondering because, like I said, I see whether it's Twitter, Blue Sky, whatever it may be, or Facebook, you talk sports, but you really don't ever really have any offerings on music takes. What are you drinking, by the way? You forgot to do that at the beginning.
Oh, where's my can? Oh, here it is. It's Distell. I've had this before. It is a Deadhead IPA, West Coast style.
Nice.
Hoppy fruit aroma, swirling, 6.9% alcohol.
Damn.
Yeah, it's good. I drank a couple beers earlier today. I was watching. So my wife took the kid into the city. And and my friend came over, so I had the day off basically. And we were watching. We're on Netflix. And we were watching the Untold series, and I watched the Brett Favre one. Such a POS, that guy. And I was watching that one, and then we were watching the Malice in the Palace with the Pistons and Pacers. That crap from Do you remember that when that happened? That. Yeah, and I was just I just will always remember that day. It was Yeah, it was crazy watch games. But I was doing it, so I was drinking a couple of beers during the day. That's why I have a smaller can.
I did not drink any beers. My hangover meter today was probably a good solid 7.5 to 8. Time in beer tent was Saturday. I hit that up, had a benefit for a buddy. Pounded Coors Lights. Now, in fairness to me, that was
God.
That shit was what was included with the ticket, man. Free draft, and it was Coors Light, so I had it.
How many do you have to pound to get a buzz off Coors Light, dude?
No, I don't know, man. Not all that many. Not all that many.
Okay.
I think as much. It's not that I drink. I drink too much when I drink. That's well documented. I don't drink that often, but I don't know. I still maybe it's because I'm getting old. I get buzzed up quicker than I used to. My tolerance is not what it used to be. Which, by the way, in the live chat on the video side, there's still some aftermath going from the whole Busch Light Apple Tops Markets.
Oh God, do we have to hear this again?
Last week, no, but Steve Noble said Pat goes into Wegmans and McDermott boys buys all the Busch Light Apple right in front of him. Pat immediately goes into a Tops rant, and one of the best podcasters has McDermott on the hot seat. You hate when I get.
Why do you? Can I ask you this? We're talking about what other foods besides wings, pizza, chicken fingers, maybe a sub do you eat? Nothing. I swear, every day you don't. That's it. You're just on the supersized diet from that one documentary, but it's the buffalo size.
Almost.
Do you eat anything else?
Yeah, yes. Hold on real quick, too. Mark also said I once drank a 12-pack of Busch Light Apple at a Matt Collins funeral. I've been accused of having 20 Matt Collins funerals on this show this offseason. No, dude, I eat okay. I have turkey sausage every morning for breakfast. That's 7 days a week for me. I usually have some kind of sausage or something.
Processed meat's bad for you, by the way.
But in terms of dinner, no. It's wings, it's fingers, it's pizza, beef au whack.
Do you have vegetables ever?
Chicken? No, it's stupid. No, I don't have any sides either. I eat chicken. Chicken's good. I'll make chicken and I'll eat it, but nothing else. Just chicken. No salads. No vegetables. No fruits. Ditto with steak. I'll make a big fat steak, and I won't eat anything else on the side either.
What we should do? I mean, this is one of my brilliant ideas that you're going to say no to. In the summer, you should do like a cook-off at your house, like a podcast cook-off. Like we get Tooch, Ralph Wilson Sr., Mark. We have them come to the backyard and Steve Noble, yeah, whoever. And you're just cooking wings for us and steaks and pizzas, and we get a beer tent. We do a podcast live from your backyard. We invite everyone over. Yeah, we should do that.
That'd be fun. Let's get into some actual
yeah, we've dicked around too much. Go ahead.
We definitely dick around too much. That's part of the Monday show, though. Everybody who listens or watches knows that shit. All right, so you and I are both Knicks fans. Let's get into this here. The Knicks got to the Eastern Conference Finals, man. Thibs got fired last week, and I thought that was kind of I don't want to say a stunner, but it was close to being a stunner. All right, so listen. So the Knicks reached the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. All right? This is a team that won 50 games during the regular season in back-to-back years for the first time since the early 90s, okay? This is a team that's been in the playoffs for the last 5 years. This is a team that has won at least a first-round series in 3 straight years for the first time since 1999 and 2000, okay? And Tom Thibodeau's record as Knicks coach was 222 and 174, 565 winning percentage. All these things about the Knicks, who were a doormat. I mean, as bad as the Bills were for 17 years in their drought, the Knicks didn't have a 17-year drought, but they were just as embarrassing, if not even worse, considering that they play in New York. The organization was a joke. Thibs really solidified and just brought credibility to that team, brought it back. Some good moves were made. This is a team that's won. This is a team that's got into the playoffs. This is a team that's won some in the playoffs, but they got to a wall, and that wall for the second straight year now has been the Indiana Pacers. Last year was in round 2. This year it was in the Eastern Conference Final. Thibs got fired last week. Why did he get fired? Well, the organization concluded that he did a great job. He brought them respectability again, but this was as far as the Knicks were going to go under his leadership as coach. That's what they determined. Also, he didn't have like the greatest relationship with some of the players, apparently, like him and Towns, a little bit, love-hate relationship.
Bridges, there was a rumor Bridges didn't like him all that much. Yeah,
right. So there were some issues with some players. This kind of sounds where I'm getting at with all this, of course, and we'll talk about Sean McDermott here in a few minutes. But as a Knicks fan, are you surprised to see a head coach, again, that brought this team to the brink of the NBA Finals this year, get fired before we turn this over to what will become a Sean McDermott comparison in conversation here?
Yeah, a little bit. And look, when I say I follow the Knicks until the playoff, like when the playoffs start, that's what I'm more into them.
Sure.
But to give you to add a little bit more to the background about the Knicks were so bad before Thibs got there. They were terrible. They were the Bills, but they spent more money, in terms of their drought. It was pathetic. It was a joke. And he comes in there and he does a lot of stuff. And he's a defensive minded coach first, which Sean McDermott is too. Funny enough, and the roster they gave to him was mostly a lot of skill guys. They didn't have too many defensive guys. As someone who's followed but not like super follow closely, I was shocked. Like, I can understand, and I think this is like the big thing. Like, you went to the Eastern Conference Finals, which you have not done in 25 years or whatever it was, and then you got fired. If they had lost to Boston in the round before, I can understand that. You didn't. You had the same thing the last 2 years, and actually 3 of the last 4, because I think they made it to the second round a couple years ago. But for that to happen, that's when I would have canned it. But I was like, oh, it's safe, and you're going forward. You had a really bad bounce with Burden, with whatever his name is, the Pacers guy who had the lucky bounce in game 1. Halliburton, thank you. And I would have thought he would have stayed on, but that's the funny thing is the NBA and even the NHL, they are just like cutthroat when it comes to coaches. And
sure.
Aaron Quinn made this comment to me because I said, like, this is like McDermott getting fired after one of the Kansas City losses, like maybe in 2023 or whatever. And he was like, it's easier because, you have one coach really and 2 assistant coaches, where in the NFL, it's a freaking conglomerate of like 50 assistants, it feels like. And I can't tell you the last time a coach got fired midway through a season and the team took off. It like hardly ever happens. So, that's the NBA. I mean, it's happened before. I remember the Cavaliers coach. He was the guy from Europe who, after LeBron came back with Love and what the hell, Kyrie Irving, they went to the finals with that guy. They lost. Next year, they canned him after a week, 2 weeks or whatever, and he just went there and so, I was a little shocked, but we'll see who they got. I heard the other day they were trying to get Jason Kidd here, and I'm just like, okay, Jason Kidd, all right, fine, I guess. I mean, he's
sure,
but it's always, if you're gonna make a move like that, and then we'll get into McDermott thing. You better tell me what's our plan. You're just firing him to fire him. Who do you want? There has to be that fish that I'm going to be enticed by. Bring this guy here. Because of that. That's where I'll get to.
I'm glad you said that, because today on Twitter X, I put out kind of a teaser of what we were going to talk about, and somebody had a tweet about an unpopular opinion or something that will piss off the fan base of your favorite team or some along those lines. And I basically said, if the Bills fail to reach the Super, at least get back to where they were last year, that Sean McDermott should be fired. And the people that defended Sean McDermott the most just said what you said. And they would be like, well, replace him with who? Who are you replacing him with? The plan. I want to bring up this comment that John Sanders has here on the video live chat, because this is pretty poignant, kind of leads into what we're going to talk about here. He said, I don't think Terry Pegula fires Thibs. I agree with that. And this is kind of let's turn this into as this pertains to Sean McDermott. Some of the similarities between the two, between Thibs and McDermott. You look at Sean McDermott, 10 straight wins, or 10 wins or more, 6 straight years now. The Bills have made the playoffs in 7 of 8 years with him as coach. They've won the AFC East 5 times in a row. They've won at least one playoff game 5 years in a row. They've been in the AFC Championship 2 times since 2020. Sean McDermott has a winning percentage of .656, which is actually pretty freaking incredible, man. But just like the Knicks and the Indiana Pacers are their kryptonite now, the Bills have fallen short to, in particular, the Chiefs, just like the Knicks have with Indiana, and they implode in awful fashion with the defense. And Sean has a pretty spotty history, like with Thibs, with some assistant coaches. We've read about it. Some players haven't seen eye to eye with the coach. So I guess what I'm saying here is that I see a lot of similarities. And at some point, when do you wonder if you're Terry Pegula? And do you wonder if you're Terry Pegula? Has Sean McDermott taken this team as far as he's going to take them? And at what point, Joe, is it this year? Do you say, if we don't get to this level this year, it's time to move on? Or should there be a Super Bowl or bust mandate right now for Sean McDermott? Should there be, and do you think there is one? Probably are 2 different answers for you, or for most people, though. But what do you think?
I don't think there should be a mandate, you have to get to the Super Bowl with him. It's always about the journey. How does the season ends in the AFC Championship? How did it end? If it's a collapse, let's just say it's 13 seconds or something like that, then it's okay, I could see it being you may have to make a change. If you lose to the Chiefs again, you may have to lose a change. It's you can't beat this team. The part of me is you can go this, that, or the other thing with that direction, but I just don't think Terry Pegula is going to make a move or fire him. He hasn't shown when everything's good that he's going to be it needs to be great, so I got to fire someone, even though good is good. Good is the benchmark. The only way, and this goes back to the Thibs thing, part of the reason you talked about a disconnect. The only way I can see someone like McDermott getting fired is if he has a disconnect with Josh Allen, the players, or Brandon Beane even. Or Brandon Beane has a disconnect with him and he gets canned. I just think, for that to happen, realistically, there just has to be an epic collapse, but also infighting where it's Terry has to make a decision. But, I don't if they go to the AFC Championship game and lose, it's still, to me, it depends how they get there, but it's a successful season. Like, yeah, will I be pissed off about it at the end of the day? Sure, I'll be disappointed for a couple of days, but I'll be like, hey, you made it to the Final Four. That's good, but what are you going to do next? And that's the key. So it's a tough thing.
Is Terry settling if that's his mindset? If you make it to the Final Four, but you can't get to the Super Bowl, unlike the Knicks who fired Thibodeau because the Knicks concluded that Thibodeau was not going to be the guy to get the Knicks to the NBA championship. You just don't think McDermott operates with that mindset right now that it's, say, you Super Bowl or we're going to get another coach who we think can win.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, what example can you pull out of throughout the league where that's happened? Where a team that has had a lot of success, who?
Tampa. Tony Dungy would get them to a point. They got Gruden and they won a Super Bowl.
Okay. Dungy did a good job in getting guys.
Just like McDermott.
Dungy made it to one championship game. McDermott did twice. Dungy got whacked in the wild card a lot of times, and then he got canned. That's different. He didn't go nearly as far as McDermott has. So I get that logic in terms of he's not McDermott's more successful in Buffalo than Dungy was in Tampa. He just and Dungy, I feel like he never made it back to the conference title game after he made it to when they made it to the playoffs. I think the second year they made it because they took a couple of years for them to get there. So I mean, it doesn't happen. I mean, and Pat, you're talking about 25 freaking years ago that happened. It doesn't happen all that much. You know, you have to, when coaches in the NFL get canned, it's because they failed like badly. Like, and when I say fail, like they go 8-8, and then it's like, we gotta make a change. The only other guy, because I was thinking about this, because I saw that Dungy mentioned, I was thinking John Fox when he was with Denver, if you remember that. Like, Denver went to the Super Bowl, and then the next year they lost in the divisional round against the Colts, and they fired him, and they brought in Gary Kubiak, who did win them a Super Bowl, even though I couldn't tell you one damn good thing he did. You know, when they did that, like how much he had to do with it. He really didn't. It was the defense that won, but it's very rare, you know, for that to happen. You know, and you know, Schottenheimer kind of had it in San Diego, like in 2005. But that's the thing. You have to go way, 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 way back for that sort of shit to happen. I think what would happen is, realistically, if they lost in the title game, and I don't know how that would happen. If they lost the same way again to the Chiefs, I would just say you need to bring in someone like a different defensive coordinator, depending on how they lose, or an offensive coordinator who has head coaching experience. Like, you need a new chef in there to kind of help out, not fire McDermott, but just get a new guy in there to do that. But like I said, there are not many examples in the NFL throughout history for me to do a Thibs or do whichever coach. Like, we know in the NBA, the last like 4 NBA title champions, I think they fired their coach like within a year afterwards. That shit doesn't happen in the NFL. It just doesn't.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I think there comes a point though where you got to say, this guy, I don't know if I'm going to get the right guy. I know history says that more times than not, it's not going to be the guy who takes him over the hump, but you got to get to a point, I feel like, where you determine that it's not going to be him. By the way, if you're watching this on the video side, do me a favor. Let me know if Joe's audio is significantly louder than mine. It was, I know, earlier on. I just want to make sure I had the settings right. I got a text from a buddy who's watching us live and said that it was like, it's because of my mixer. It's nothing to do with Joe's.
Well, it's your fault.
Yeah, it is my fault. And I just want to know, like I said, if Joe sounds significantly louder.
I should sound louder. I'm better.
You're the dominant one. You're the alpha of this podcast.
Yeah. Hey, Rockpile reports in the house. How you doing? And Andy Provin as well.
Yeah.
The Bills historian. Hi, guys.
Yeah, it is. All right. So he said it is. I guess it was. Hopefully that'll be taken care of. All right. Anyway, let me get back to what I was talking about here with Sean McDermott, man. Terry Pegula, I feel like, and this is where I do involve it. I hate involving the Buffalo Sabres with anything that's involving the Bills, but I got to say this. I think the fact that the Sabres have been so lousy for so long, and God, they would do anything right now just to not be a joke on the hockey side, I think that Terry Pegula is content with the Bills being in the mix every year, taking swings at the piñata every year and being able to take some swings. That's good enough for the status quo in terms of who's in the front office and who the head coach is. I don't know that. I don't think Terry Pegula would fire Sean McDermott. If the Bills got to the AFC Championship game and lost to Kansas City again this year, I don't think Sean McDermott would be fired. So let's put that on ice. Let me ask you this, though. Let's say the Bills, and prefacing this by saying Josh Allen stays healthy. That goes without saying. Nothing crazy happens during the season, significant with injuries. If the Bills were to lose in the first round of the playoffs this year, say they hold on and they barely win the division, or hell, they don't even win the division, but they make the playoffs and they lose in, say, the first round. Is that enough? Is that a scenario where it's time to move on from Sean McDermott? Do you think is realistic? And again, I know it's kind of like, what do you think Terry Pegula should do versus what do you think Terry Pegula will do? Think versus should is kind of a
I don't think he would can him. I don't think he would can him. No, I don't. Unless there's like something that happens behind the scenes that we don't know about. It's not going to be, if he gets canned, it's going to be about stuff that's like off the field. That's how I feel. I think Terry Pegula likes to, he doesn't can people that he gets along with. It's part of the reason why Kevin Adams is still here. He gets along with him. He gets along with Sean McDermott pretty well. Until there's something that happens within those ranks, I just don't see him canning him after this. I don't know. There hasn't been any sort of like, because he doesn't talk, and all we have is like he's fired a bunch of people in the past, but it hasn't been. He's fired the losers in terms of the people at the Sabres or whatever. Besides Kevin Adams, obviously. But that's kind of where I'm at. I don't see it happening. I just don't. Unless there's some sort of setback between him and Bean and Josh Allen. That's it.
I don't agree. I think if the Bills don't win the division, or if the Bills maybe lose in the first round of the playoffs, let me ask you this. You're saying, let's say the Bills, and again, no major injury and Josh Allen plays all season long. Let's say the Bills go 9-8 and miss the playoffs somehow, some way, which, by the way, is not absolutely, unrealistic. But say the Bills go 9-8. You're telling me going into the new stadium next year, you think Sean McDermott would be back on a Buffalo Bills team that goes 9-8 and misses the playoffs?
Yes, I do. I think
I don't.
Well, what's your reasoning for it? Give me a concrete. I don't know. Have you heard something? Did someone DM you and say this is do or die? What?
No. I think it gets to a point where Terry would have to conclude that Sean McDermott is not going to be the guy. Put it this way. This is the last year. I didn't even fully realize this or think about it much until this weekend. This is the last year that Josh Allen's in his 20s. At this time next year, Josh Allen's going to be a 30-year-old quarterback. I think you could safely say this is maybe the last year of the first half of his career, the first half of, what's certainly looking like a Hall of Fame career. And if you start going backwards, let alone, I think if you're even stall anymore, I think that's enough. But if you start going backwards, man, I think it's time to consider that change. Denver did it when, they fired Dan Reeves and they brought in Shanahan at some point for, the back.
You're talking about shit. Okay. You're talking about shit from fucking. But the reason why that happened was, again, you're missing stuff. I know you probably heard other people mention these, but I'll give you context. Dan Reeves got fired because him and John Elway didn't get along anymore. That was what happened. And that's why I keep going to until Josh Allen says, I don't like Coach McDermott anymore because he's a dick or whatever the hell. It's a mute point. That's the bottom line. It has to be 9-8's not going to get him canned. It's not going to happen. It just won't. Now, will they make some changes? Like I said, they bring in a new defensive coordinator, new offensive coordinator who is an outsider. Sure, that I can definitely see if they finish 9-8, and they're not going to finish. I don't think they're going to finish 9-8. But I don't know. I think the examples that I heard this week, I heard a little bit of it. I know GR ran this topic, and now we're running it, and it was the thing to say. And I get that. It's fine. It's June. People gotta chat it up. But the examples, just there's not enough of that. We're going to Dan Reeves and John Elway from fucking 1992. Give me a break. It's not gonna happen. It's mental masturbation at this point. Sorry. It just is. And Yeah, like if I was, and it always depends who you got. But look, Terry is very guarded. We don't know much about him because he doesn't really talk and nothing really gets out unless it's the Sabres a little bit. But this is the one hiring that he has gotten right. And, and that's that. Like, and like, I think if you go 9-8, then you better go far the next year. Like if you're 9-8 again, 10-7, and get stepping, obviously. So, but I just don't see that happening in terms of it. But we'll see what happens, But yeah, go ahead.
Shout out to my boys over at the Rock Power Report, part of the Blue Wire Network too, by the way. He said if Buffalo goes 9-8 this year, Drew and I will drink Busch Apple for the entirety of the following season. Look, I'm
sorry to hear that.
I do not think the Bills are going 9-8 this season.
Well, then where are you asking me these stupid hypotheticals go?
It's not a stupid hypothetical. You're telling me it's out of the realm of possibility that a football team could go 9-8. A couple bad losses, a couple unlucky breaks, a couple significant
The 49ers
injuries.
didn't fire Shanahan after they went to the Super Bowl 2 out of 3 years.
What did you just say? Where did they go to? What did you say that again? Where?
What?
Where did they go? Say it again. The Super Bowl, did you say?
Yeah, I know. And
have the
McDermott,
Buffalo Bills been to a Super Bowl?
Not since '93. Yes, I got you.
That's my point. Okay. That's my point, man.
All right.
I don't know. I feel like I'm not saying there is one. Okay, I guess it depends on how you ask the question. You're answering the question, which I'm not saying you're wrong, but you're answering it. What will Terry do? I'm trying to ask you, what should Terry do? Before we go to a break, let me ask you this. If you were Terry Pegula, if Terry Pegula sold the majority of the Buffalo Bills to you and the Bills couldn't get past, say, the first round of the playoffs, are you the owner bringing back Sean McDermott for 2026? Or are you saying,
because I don't know. I don't know who the options are. Look, if Sean McVay gets fired, I'll take him over McDermott. Andy Reid decides to quit because he's sick of Kansas City barbecue and he wants to check some chicken wings. He wants to pal around with you across town. Yeah, I'll take him over Sean McDermott. It really depends who's out there, and that's the thing. But I don't know. It's I have to see how they do this. You go 9-8. Like why are they 9-8? The injuries happen. The your boy Joey Bosa get caught in a January 6th reunion in DC. I don't know. In terms of what happens, you got to tell me what happens. I don't know.
Right,
but
fair enough.
But look, the league, the bottom line is this: the leagues are completely different. I know it's fun to do this topic. It's hard. It hardly has happened, and you got to pull two fucking names like Dungy and Dan Reeves, and I pulled John Fox out because that's kind of what happened. It doesn't. It hardly happens. It's going to have to be, if you want a McDermott change, it's going to have to happen with a giant fight between him and Brandon Beane and him and Josh Allen.
Agreed.
I think Terry, he wants to win, but if they go, if they keep going to this AFC Championship game, I don't think they're going to can him. I just don't. I just don't think they're going to.
You're probably right, and you're also probably right that it would take other forces off the field to make it happen. I do think Terry Pegula, while he definitely wants to win, I'm not saying he's not in this to win a Super Bowl, but I think he's satisfied with the Bills being a competitive, good, money-making, profitable business football team right now. And as long as they are, he's probably not going to make that change. I got to take a real quick break on the video side. Literally, we're going to be back in about 3 seconds. All right, we're back. Dude, I think part of the audio problem earlier was I'm really hard of hearing at this point in my life, man. And I got the volumes turned up loud so I can hear things. And I think the average person, for them, it's loud. Anyway, hopefully that is fixed. All right,
that's your fault, not mine.
It is my fault, man. So I feel like we would just keep going on a loop. Matthew Fairburn wrote an article last week on the Sabres about them being caught in a hamster wheel. I kind of feel like a Sean McDermott, should he get fired if the Bills can't get to the Super Bowl this year, it kind of feels like a hamster wheel type of situation. It's just going to keep going in circles because I don't think anything is wrong. I think you saying that he's going to stay no matter what, even if they miss the playoffs, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think that should be the case, though. I do think if Sean McDermott can't beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs again, and if they lose again in the playoffs because his defense implodes
collapses,
again, which they've done every single elimination loss, that defense has absolutely imploded, and it's not the only reason. Maz Vids he's not here tonight, but he's a regular commenter. He's not a Josh Allen guy very much, and he loves to blame Josh for a lot of shit. Josh could be better in certain moments. There's lots of things that can happen differently, but the one thing that's been consistent is the defense has absolutely been garbage and sucked in the elimination losses, and he oversees that. So
sure,
I don't know. I don't think there's any real good answer, and I hope we don't have to find out, because if the Bills don't make the playoffs or win the division this year, this will not be a very fun year. Let's just put it that way. I want to switch topics here. Last week on the show, we had a question about Keon Coleman, and I asked the audience this. I'm going to ask you this now. If I told you right now in early June, going into year 2, that you could sign up for Keon Coleman having 775 receiving yards this year, 2025 season, would you take that? Would you take that right now? 775 yards.
Yeah, 100%.
You would?
Yeah. Yeah. Because look, it's an offense that spreads the ball around the field. That's true. That's what they've tugged. So I'm not like counting on him to be Stephon Diggs 2.0, because they've changed it and it feels like they're spreading the ball more. Now maybe all of a sudden he becomes an alpha male and it's like, oh hey, I'm gonna get the ball more, and he becomes a 1,000-yard wide receiver. But I'll take 775 for a second-year guy, second rounder. When you have Shakir there, and Shakir's gonna get targets too, and Kincaid and one of the other 10 other wide receivers they have, it feels like. But yeah, I'm signing that up.
All right. Now, it's worth noting, too, last year, and it didn't really seem like, even before the injury, we all know after the injury, he wasn't the same player. He did nothing in the playoffs. It didn't necessarily feel like he was having a great rookie season. He had moments, but he was on pace. When he got hurt late in the Miami game, he was on pace for 787 yards as a rookie. So I would say 775. I think I would sign up for it, too, as well, because to your point, this is a team that really is buying into the whole everybody eats. Let me ask you this, because we did this on the show last week too. I thought this was fun. Predict for me right now the Bills' top 4 in receiving yards in order. How you think it'll be? First most, second, third, and fourth. What 4 pass catchers will have the most yards for the Bills this year?
Shakir, Kincaid, Coleman. And then the fourth one seems to be the wild card. I'm going to go with...
What did you say? You said Shakir? I'm sorry.
It's okay. I said Shakir, Kincaid, Coleman. Okay. And then the fourth one is like the wild card one. I'm going to say Elijah Moore.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to have. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I watched the film over the summer like you dorks do. But I feel Moore has a little bit more upside than Palmer. Palmer, look, he was technically the number 1 guy with Justin Herbert as his quarterback, and he didn't really do much. I know the offense was different. It's the fucking Harbaugh. You got to run the ball 2 trillion times. But I think Moore has a little bit more upside for the things we've talked about before with not having great quarterbacks, but still getting like a 50, 60 catches a year. So I can see him doing a little bit better. But that's how I see it. But I still think it's going to be a spread the ball around. The only way I could see it not being that is if James Cook holds out and they kind of decide, hey, we're going to pass the ball more because we don't have enough confidence in Davis or Ty Johnson, where it's like, okay, you know what? We're not going to run the ball 15, 20 times. It will be like what it was in 2022 or something like that.
I had a different list.
Of course you did.
I had Shakir 1, and I had Coleman 2.
Okay.
I had Joshua Palmer 3, actually, on this team. I do think he's going to have a good season. I think he's a good fit. I remember being happy when the Bills... I remember, for all the shit I get wrong, I was sort of semi-pounding the table for Joshua Palmer before free agency. I just think he does things well that the Bills need help at. I think he's going to be a good fit. I think he's going to have a pretty good year. I could see him having 600 to 700 yards receiving, which to me would be third. I got Kincaid fourth. I don't know how I feel about Dalton Kincaid. I feel like Dalton Kincaid is one of the great mysteries of the 2025 Buffalo Bills right now. He was so productive as a rookie, not as good last year. The injury was certainly a factor, but he doesn't really run after the catch much. He's just, I don't know. It just felt like a safety valve chain mover, not the seam buster that I thought he was going to be when the Bills took him in the first round. You agree with that? Like Kincaid's kind of mysterious right now. Like you said, you had him second, I believe. I have him fourth. And it also wouldn't surprise me if he's not even in the top four either. He could be two, or he could not even be in the top four just as easy, I feel like, with this team.
I don't know if I would say he's a mystery. I think where he comes from, he's a first-round pick. He had a good rookie year, as you said. Last year, it was injuries that kind of damaged him, obviously. I just look at the talent. Like, he's a first-rounder, and he has an okay resume. And I get what you're saying in terms of him being a chain. Like he's not down the field yet. Like we haven't seen that much, but I think he has the metrics where he could be a down the field guy. It really depends how they use him. I would say more of a mystery to me is I think Palmer and Moore a little bit. Even though I got Moore as four. Yeah, because those are like I don't know any like. There's not much what they've done with the quarterback situation for Moore. Palmer being where he was always like he played with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams when they were in their prime, and he was like the third guy there. And then when they left, he kind of wasn't great. So it's gonna be tough trying to figure out like who's gonna go where with this offense. I mean, they did a lot of underneath stuff last year. They weren't very effective down the field in the past with Josh Allen, so I think it's something that they can work on maybe, and maybe they can kind of be that Kelsey type guy that can be a little bit more in that 20-yard range possibly. But we'll see what happens. I'm not. It's tough to really gauge this wide receiving core because it really is. They spread the ball around. They don't throw the ball as much as they did in the past. And, I still think it's going to be up to the running. Like I still think they want balance because McDermott wants his defense to be off the field as much as possible.
I take back what I said. You're right. I think Elijah Moore is the big mystery right now, not Dalton Kincaid with this team. Elijah Moore reminds me right now a lot of what Curtis Samuel reminded me of a year ago, saying the same things. He's quick. He looks fast. He looked really good in a jersey and shorts and OTAs. He played with really shitty quarterbacks before. Now he's playing with Josh Allen. I mean, aren't these the same things that we were saying last year about Curtis Samuel?
Yeah.
And he was bothered by a foot injury, in fairness to him, but he was just all right. It was just all right. Anyway, John Sanders said Kincaid was 7th of 42 qualifying tight ends in terms of yards after catch. Just shows how many bad tight ends are out there. Sure, and there's also, factor. They like playing Dawson Knox too, so I mean, he's going to get his reps out there as well.
And John makes to go into John's point. That's the thing about tight ends. When you say like Kincaid had this historical rookie year, it was historical in terms of like comparison to other tight ends. But tight ends, like there's only like 5 or 6 like studs, and the rest are kind of like so it's like when you do better than it's not as big of an accomplishment because there's a lot of when it comes to tight ends. It's still a position that 10, 12 years ago wasn't that big, and then as the rules kind of got more laced and you couldn't really kill people anymore over the middle, they started kind of going up a little bit. But
let me let's switch topics. Something that's actually potentially news now and certainly will become news next week if he doesn't show up. But James Cook, I mean, this is shit. Look, this has been going on now for quite a while. We know he wants a new contract. It sure sounds like he's committed to not wanting to be here without one. And Adam Schefter reported that we may not see him in Buffalo for a while. What were your thoughts on that? There is mandatory minicamp next week, so I do believe he is subject to fine if he doesn't show up.
Yes.
What are you thinking right now with James Cook? This is something that, as we get closer to training camp now, training camp's 5.5, 6 weeks away. This is starting to sound like it's a problem that's not just going to go away.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like obvious probably the agent, pissed in Schefter's ear about it, and Schefter does what he always does. He has agents on this Rolodex that will make it, will do that, and he's obviously making a panic situation. I'm gonna change my Cook opinion. I don't think he's coming back until week 8. If he gets back, that's when he can get back and he can be still eligible for free agency next year. I think here's the thing, a couple things. First, I've been talking about his brother for a while. I kind of went down a rabbit hole of Dalvin Cook to look at his career. And just to give you a little bit of background, he was a second-round pick, blew out his ACL, was okay his second year. Third year, he really got good. And then the fourth year, which, because you have a 4-year deal at that point, he didn't have a holdout technically, but this was during COVID, like 2020 COVID, where there was no OTAs or anything like that. And he went to camp, but he didn't practice until they had an arrangement or an agreement or whatever. And he got $63 million. Now, the way it works is you don't get that $63 million until your 5th year after your rookie deal kind of runs out. He only had out of that year, two years of his contract year. Then he got cut. And then he goes to like a couple other teams and he doesn't do anything. And he's out of the league. Do you know how old his brother is right now? His brother's 29. So, which is nothing. It's not that bad at all. He's out of the league and he was a stud. So I say all this because I think he probably talks to his brother. All this talk about and his brother's probably telling him like, yo, get your money. Look what happened to me. I got cut at 26 and I was done basically. And I'm not even buying the whole he's going to get fined. He's going to have to come back. Bro, he comes from a rich family. I mean, his brother, they talk. His brother's a millionaire. He probably can give him some of the money for the fine and be like, yeah, pay me back when you sign your new deal next year or whatever. And here's where my 180 has changed a little bit. I don't think he can have, if he has an 1,100 yard season, we'll just say, same as what he's done the last 2 years. What the hell is that going to do for him in the open market? It's probably not going to do much. He would have to get 1,600 yards maybe for him to get more money. And he might look at it that way as, why am I going to get 1,200 yards with the same an offense that likes to do a running back by committee? He gets wear and tear on him, because that's key. That's why running backs are a dime a dozen. It's not just because you can find them anywhere. It's your shelf life isn't great. And he's going to get more hits, and he's already a back-to-back 1,000 yards running back. He doesn't have to get, if he does another 1,000 yards, I don't think he's going to get more money, and that's where I'm at. I think he's going to hold out. I think he's going to wait till week 8. And I just have this feeling, and that's what I would say to him if I was his agent, because I had it in my mindset was he should go into Sean McDermott's room and be like, give me the ball as much as possible. And it's great. If he gets more yardage, I don't know, it could work against him, because the team can be like, well, you had 3 straight years of 1,000 yards. You got wear and tear on you. You kind of disintegrated your value a little bit. So I think I don't know what it was. Maybe the Schefter thing, he did his job in terms of the agent pissing in his ear, being like, this is not good. He sold his house, blah, blah, blah. And I'm predicting that. I don't know why. I changed my mind over the weekend. Call it a hot take. I'll probably be wrong, maybe, and I hope I am wrong, because obviously I want him to play here. But I really do think he's coming from a football family where his brother kind of got boned a little bit in terms of he's out of the league and he was an elite running back and he got paid, but he didn't. I don't know how much he actually made, because he got cut pretty the second year after the second year of the new contract, they canned his ass. So I don't know. I just have this feeling. That's my take.
I don't think James Cook just has a lot of leverage right now, and that's kind of the confusing part. He's got to have great stats to really build his worth, like you said, and I don't think that's going to happen here. It's certainly not going to happen here. Then you got to look at it from this way. All right, everybody's take is the same. Well, I don't want to pay James Cook, trade him. All right, well, who wants to trade for a guy that, unless you're paying him, if you're the Cowboys, you're the Browns, you're the 49ers, that doesn't matter. Name a damn team. Don't matter who it is.
No.
You got to pay him. So you're going to give up a mid-round pick, and you're going to pay the guy. Do you think there's a team in the league that if James Cook thinks he's worth between $15 to $20 million, is there a team in the NFL that is going to say, yeah, he's worth $15 to $20 million? Because that's the only way you're going to get somebody to trade for him. Why would the Team X, make it the Browns just because it's fun to say them, I guess. I don't know. But why would the Browns trade for a guy who's unhappy, wants a new contract, and isn't going to he's not going to get one? What are you going to trade for him for? So I don't know. It's not as easy as just saying we'll trade his ass because, again, if he doesn't want to play for $5.5 million with a Super Bowl contending Buffalo Bills, why is he going to want to play for $5.5 million for the Dallas Cowboys or the Minnesota Vikings or whoever the hell? You know what I mean?
James Cook could be sitting there and thinking he's doing this for all running backs because it is a position that just does not get respect. It just doesn't. And I think part of the reason why he's been vocal about it a little bit,
well,
and that's why
I completely wrong, by the way.
No, he's right. I feel bad for running backs, because I don't agree with you shouldn't pay them unless they're God, and even then, it's just look, I know people bring up Saquon Barkley, but the Eagles went to the Super Bowl with Sanders as their running back, and they should have won, 2 years ago or whatever it was. So you don't, they got the elite guy and they did that, but that's what I would do, honestly, if I was his agent. Because I would say, screw it. Why are you going to... If he gets another 1,100, 1,200-yard season, I don't think it's going to help his leverage in the league. Because I think it's proven he's a 1,000-yard back. It's proven. He's a 1,000-yard back. He's a top 12 running back. He'd have to go up to 1,600 yards. And I don't think in this offense, he's not doing that. And, the only thing he could work on where if I'm a GM and I go, hey, I'm going to pay him more money, is if he all of a sudden becomes a stud wide receiver out of the backfield, which he hasn't really shown too much of.
But that was his skill. That was one of his skill traits coming out of college.
Sure. Well,
is this a love affair that's more one-sided? Because I think the Bills love James Cook. I don't know that James Cook loves the Buffalo Bills.
I have no clue.
I'll elaborate a little bit too. You look at Saquon Barkley. It's about business, and I don't blame the Eagles. Well, last year he goes over 2,000 yards. He's literally 100 yards away from breaking Eric Dickerson's all-time record, and he does not play in week 18 or week 17. He doesn't even play because we're trying to win a Super Bowl here. The Buffalo Bills had nothing to play for in Foxborough. Nothing. Zero. And James Cook started that game so that they could get him 1,000 yards. Probably had some kind of bonus in his contract for that. And then they bring him back in the third quarter when they're inside the 2-yard line to get him a touchdown to tie O.J. Simpson's franchise record. You don't do that if you don't have a deep love for that player. Sean McDermott must, because that's the only way he's seeing the field. Nobody would have said, this is bullshit, James Cook, you're not playing him because you care about the playoffs and individual stats aren't worth risking a player. The Eagles did it with Barkley. The Bills do it with Cook. I'm getting a sense, and this is a sense, and I could be wrong. There's no inside information, no sources, none of that shit. I don't know that James Cook loves being in Buffalo. I don't, he's a Southern boy, Florida dude, man. Maybe he wants to go play somewhere where it's warm, play, in Dallas, play in Florida, Tampa. I don't know, man, but
I think he just wants to get paid. Okay, his brother played for the Vikings. That's a fucking Siberia too.
Sure.
I think he just wants to get paid. I think there's a part he wants to get paid. I think he is a part of a fraternity where his older brother at one point was a top 5 running back. He was a stud, his brother. And then his brother got hurt and it was a wrap. And I think that is on his mind. And that's why if I was his agent, I would say, fuck it. They're not going to, if you want that 15 million, and who knows how much the Bills really want to pay. I have no idea what they want to play. Do they want to pay 10 million?
What do you
we
think?
Don't know. We don't know.
It's a guess. What do you think the Bills, Brandon Beane right now has a number. What do you think, you're guessing, obviously, so would I would be as well. What would you guess that Brandon Beane and the Bills are willing to pay? I'm not asking you what you think James Cook is worth.
I know what they want.
I think he's worth 12 to 13 million at least a year. What do you think the Bills put him at in terms of their value in this system and what they're willing to pay James Cook?
I don't know, 10 million. I feel like they haven't shown to me they pay running backs. They just haven't. And they haven't, they draft them in the second, third round. A lot of them, they draft more of those than wide receivers in those rounds. He did cut I'm going way back, but Brandon Beane did cut LaShawn McCoy, and McCoy made money. He was making bank at that time, and they cut him. And they come, I think, the second year he was there, being the full season, 2019. Remember, it was training camp. and they had all those running backs. They had Gore. You know, they kind of just they don't pay running backs. And you know,
John
it's the one
Sanders,
thing.
Joe, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but this leads into me asking you a question. Why you can continue your point as well. John Sanders in our live chat says, if the Bills sign him to a 3-year, $45 million extension with $25 million guaranteed, what would your reaction be? I got one. What would your reaction be? If that's the contract, if the Bills signed him, what would your reaction be?
What's the cap number? That's all I care about when they do any of these deals. Like, what is the cap number? When can they get? That's as a fan. That's all I give a shit about. You know, and it's very hard to do the $15 million a year. Like, oh my god, he wants $15 million there. He can get that in a signing bonus. The guy can pay it up front, and then like he's got prorated where he's not making that much money cap wise. But if he gets that, I don't know. My reaction would be good for you to get paid. That would be it.
Going back to what we were talking about originally, what do you think the Bills are willing to pay him? Podcast Junkie SG says in the live chat here, clearly what being offered Cook means they were pretty far apart. I'm guessing it was below $10 million. That would have been my answer too. I think the Bills put a value of him somewhere between as low as 8 and I'd say as high as maybe $10.5 million. I think that's where Brady Bean would say, we'll sign you on the dotted line right now. Because again, you could look at it, and we've talked about this before. If you think James Cook is awesome, you could prove stats that show that you're right. If you think he's easily replaceable, you could probably do that as well. He only plays 47% of the snaps. You don't even play half the snaps for the team.
That's the thing, yeah. I mean, and that's where before I had my epiphany about this, I had said like he needs to go in there and beg for more snaps because I'm sure he would play more snaps, but they don't do that. And now I've changed it, and I think he probably might think like I'm not going to go wear and tear and devalue myself because what's 1,000 yards again for you guys? But I'm looking at a very cynical point of view of like cutthroat business, but that's what I'm thinking. I'll just say this:
you don't think there's any way? You don't think there's any scenario where James Cook signs an extension with the Buffalo Bills this summer before the season starts?
No,
I'm with you there now.
I think they paid a lot of people. They gave a lot of extensions out, and I feel like they're done with extensions. I don't know why, just a sixth sense, and I think they want to see how things are. Because look, if they lose next year, let's just say they're losing the divisional game, you gotta figure out ways to pay, to improve your roster, you know. And then if you're going against the cap, and this guy adds to that, you know, it's probably the easiest. Look, I do stand by it that running backs are replaceable. You can find running backs anywhere, and that's sad. That's the sad to say the truth for running backs. It sucks for them. That is what it is. I'll just say this though, it does feel like, man, like when that Schefter thing came out, I peeked on X, and you do not want to be in a contract squabble with the Bills and have social media like on your laptop if you're doing that to see it, because it always just feels like the fan base is just not for contract squabbles. And I was just thinking like, you know, from him to Jarius Burr to Jason Peters, I can't even think of other guys. You know, we haven't had too many contract. You know, Shaq Lawson even, like, you know, he was a big free agent, air quote, in 2019. And I don't think people were like clamoring for him to come back. You know, it's just I always feel fans don't want you to get paid, you know, as much as, and in some cases they should, you know, you should. But you know, if I have my scenario where I think he's not going to play and I think he's going to come back week 8. Like, that changes the offense to me. Because I don't know dick about Davis. I know he had that one good game against the Jets. You know, Ty Johnson's fine-ish, but what's he going to... I don't know if he can be a feature back. And then that changes things. Like, you may have to go back to being more of a passing offense. Or Josh Allen's your number 1 running back in a weird way.
They won't be as good without James Cook as they would be with him. And I think it'd be ignorant and stupid for anyone to suggest otherwise. I do like Ray Davis. I think Ray Davis is capable. I think he'll do some good things, but I don't think he's James Cook. I don't think anybody could realistically and reasonably sit here and say that the Bills they're better off without James Cook on the football field. Bullshit, they're not. They're a better football team when James Cook's out there because James Cook has a gear that Ray Davis does not have. It's just
it would just be funny, like, if it goes down the tubes with Cook with the fans. It just, I don't know what it is about running. But I'm just saying, like, they have been running backs in this town, like, you know, Travis Henry, like, kind of pissed people off at the end because, like, he was pissed off they drafted McGahee and then they got hurt. Then McGahee was like, I want the Bills to move to Toronto. That pissed everyone off. Marshawn Lynch was being run by the cops, and he couldn't wait to get the hell out of here, and fans were kind of sick of his shit. Who am I missing? CJ Spiller, I guess they liked him kind of, and then he got hurt all the freaking time at the end. It's been kind of
you
like
could go back 40-some years. Joe Cribbs sat out because he wouldn't get.
Yeah,
they didn't pay him.
And people, and people were over Antoine Smith at the end because he was a kind of a soft running back, but it was because the Bills ran shotgun with him, and he was more of he needed the fullback back there, and then he did good with the Patriots. Anyway, like for whatever reason, the running backs always kind of go bad here with the fans with reactions.
I think the only feasible solution for this season, besides James Cook just not playing, is you get a situation where you find some way to get him some kind of salary bump for this year, some kind of injury protection. I think John Sanders pointed that out in the chat too. I agree with that. Some kind of injury guarantee, and you have a handshake agreement that you are not going to franchise tag him after the season, and you will let him be a free agent because now you can't hold him hostage for another year. And I think maybe that gets him done. I would say this. There's one last thing I want to point out about this situation. Before last year, I would have said, you know what? If he don't play, he's just killing himself. But then I look back to last year. That Jets edge rusher, hell was his name, man? Oh, it's going to drive me nuts. I can't think of it.
Hassan Reddick?
Yep, Hassan Reddick. Thank you. Hassan Reddick didn't go to camp, didn't play games, missed half the damn season or whatever, came back. He mailed it in. I don't even think he had a sack all season long. He didn't do shit. What happens? He goes to free agency. He is the first player signed in the NFL 1 minute after free agency started. He signed a 1 year, like $14 million deal with the New York or with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So he was perfectly fine when he got to free agency. He got paid anyway. Yeah. So my thought was, well, James Cook don't play, he's just hurting himself. Bullshit, man. He'll go to mail it in. If he's healthy, somebody's going to give him a nice fat contract, whether he does good with the Bills this year or not. So I don't know. Stick around, I guess, with James Cook because it's going to be something that's not going away, and it's going to be, especially with HBO coming here in Buffalo.
One thing I saw people mentioning Fred Jackson in the chat of like a good relationship with fans. You're right. And I think part of that was what made him was people hated Marshawn Lynch, and who had Fred Jackson, who was a good running back behind him, and I think people gravitated to him more because of that. He needed the Marshawn Lynch heat, if that makes sense for wrestling terms.
In terms of Fred. Most teams who don't have a great franchise quarterback, the backup quarterback's always the most popular player on the team. Used to be like that with the Bills for many years. Sure. The backup running back's always the most popular player on the Buffalo Bills. Speaking of not popular, let's do your Mount Flushmore for this week.
Where's my Mount Flushmore effect? Do we have that on this, or did you not?
No, I got to get it back from the old one still.
Little prick.
Toilet flushing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is like the worst Sabres suits. We're just calling them suits. We're talking GM, coaches, owners, 4 guys. I don't know why I decided to do the Sabres. I'm so ambivalent about them now. I don't even care. But the only way I can get any sort of anger is like thinking of the past. That's it. So on my Mount Flushmore, number 1, it's got to be Terry Pegula as a suit. I mean, what is it? 14 years, 13 years, whatever. No playoffs.
14.
14. Cost effective. Alienated the alumni. He's been terrible, and it went from. He spent a lot of money to I don't want to spend a lot of money because we're going broke, and he fired everyone and during the pandemic, and he's kind of an idiot. He's a micromanager. Everyone knows that. He has a hand in the roster. He's the biggest reason why they've gone into the tank. And it's as I said, maybe there's like a severance for Terry Pegula from severance of like the Bills owner and then the Sabres owner. Like he goes into the elevator and he goes like that with the freaking eyes or whatever they do. Like on Severance. So he's number 1. Number 2, we have to go with
Severance. The Severance reference was awesome.
No problem, sir. Then number 2, we have to go with Kevin Adams. I probably hate Kevin Adams more than I dislike Terry Pegula because Kevin Adams is just some dork who was down the hallway, throwing, being the manager at freaking pizza parties at the arena or the Harbor Center or the fuck it was. And like anytime he talks, he's just like, he used to always be like, I'm so grateful to have the Pegulas in my life. And I'm just like, dude, shut up. Like, we get it. You think they're great because they love you for whatever reason. I haven't gotten it yet. You're the GM of 6 years. Every time that when Thibs got fired, I said, I think I posted on Blue Sky, Blue Sky, the better platform than Twitter. I posted something like Kevin Adams still has a job, and I'm just like, well, how does he still have a job? So every time someone gets fired, I'm just going to be like, Kevin Adams still has a job. And yeah, he's terrible.
Okay.
Get him out of here. Awful. Number 3, going to go Ralph Kruger. That guy was a phony. You owned an 18-game losing streak. You lied. You told people that you were going to coffee shops around Buffalo, and you weren't, probably. You were just sitting at home probably looking at porn. Who the hell knows? He was just terrible, boring. He was just awful. He was such a bad head coach. And
18-game losing streak under him.
That was
no life. And
that was when I tanked. I was done. I was like, I am not letting this team piss me off anymore. But yeah, he was terrible. F him. But it's just crazy. Like, I'm a third through the Flushmore. It's all people from within the last this decade, which is insane to me.
Mm-hmm.
So now number 4. This one, I've gone back and forth on. I could give you my 3 who I want to put on there, but then I'm going to pick one. There's Larry Quinn, there's Tom Golisano, and then I think that those are the 2 I wanted to put on. And Jason Botterill. I was thinking about him because he was just a putz. Those are the 3 suits I'm thinking about in terms of and I'm going to go with Tom Golisano. I know that there are people who love Terry Pegula. He saved the team, allegedly. I don't believe that for a fucking second. They were not moving. And that guy, to me, he got he made the playoffs 4 times, which obviously we would take. And, the way I would compare it is Terry Pegula made him look good. Like Trump making George W. Bush look good. That's kind of how I feel about Golisano. He was terrible then. He was awful. He didn't want to pay. He destroyed the co-captains Briere and Drury. He didn't want to pay them. He then was so frugal. He suspended Teppo Numminen because he had a heart condition. He was super cheap. They didn't even have they wouldn't even fly the broadcasters to road games. They had radio coverage for a little bit for a couple of years. He was just a frugal douche. And then he kind of did the same thing with Terry, where he kind of disappeared after the heat started coming on. And he was just there to make money, and then he just left. So he's on my list. I mean, Larry Quinn's close. Larry Quinn was a douche. He may have been the right-hand man because he was to Tom Golisano, and he was a shitty land developer, and he sucked on the school board when he was the president, whatever the fuck he did. I forgot. But yeah, he's close. But that's why I'm putting it. And I know some people will disagree with me because Golisano, the narrative is he rescued the team and they did make the playoffs and all that sort of shit. But if Terry Pegula was the owner, then Briere and Drury would have still been there. He did not want to spend money, and I can't stand cheapskates owners in sports. Get the fuck out. If you're not here to win and you're just here to make money, go drill a fucking oil well or whatever. So that's my Mount Flushmore. And yeah,
I agree with 3 of them. I'm with you with 3. I also would have Pegula, Kruger, and Kevin Adams on my list. And I kind of almost feel like those are slam dunks too. How could you really dispute them? The last one, though, was kind of a coin flip for me. The one who I did not pick, Dan Bleisma, he was he was a great coach until he got to Buffalo. And he was a lousy coach here, and he was always blaming other people and other shit. Also, Phil Housley as a coach was awful as well. He was just in over his head. But I almost don't even blame him. He should have never got the job to begin with. The last guy on my list, and this is kind of for personal reasons, sort of.
Oh, no.
Ted Black.
What?
I was not a Ted Black fan.
What?
Man. I was not a Ted Black fan.
He had blogger summits. You got invited to them.
Early on, he did. You're right. I remember. I was 2009 or something.
Yeah, I remember you somehow got invited and I didn't. I was pissed off about that because you never blogged.
At first, he was very open to alternative media at the time. This was before podcasts, really. It was blogs, and websites, things like that. And he was working with alternative style bloggers. I remember I met Chris Baker actually at the Bloggers Summit. There's some other people that I met for the first time there too. Anyway, he just kind of became a douche so not long after that. Just I don't really.
What did he become a douche for?
Trust me, man. He kind of was. He's kind of
Whatever.
a little bit of a douche, man. A little bit of a douche.
Whatever. I know Harrington hated him. I know Harrington didn't like him, and a couple other Sabres beat guys didn't like him, but I liked him. I thought he was the last president they had with a hockey background, which is kind of insane.
That's true.
I didn't hate him that much. I thought he was a good dude. But yeah, I don't know why don't you have Gallisano or Larry Quinn? Did you not care then? Were you too busy eating wings? What were you doing?
They could have been on it. There's a lot of people who could have been on it. Some we're not even really discussing. All right, let's get to our true or false here. I got to say, the first one you already answered. Joe doesn't know these until I present them to him. My first true and false was true or false. James Cook takes the first snap at running back for the Bills this season in Week 1. You just said you predict that he doesn't.
I'm going to say false. I don't know what the Schefter thing panicked me a little bit, and I just feel like he's like no, like, and I laid out the reasons for that with his brother, and like maybe he thinks of himself as a running back martyr who wants to get paid and like feels like that position has been underutilized, and I don't think the Bills value running backs in terms of paying them. So yeah, I think it's going to be the Jarius Byrd holdout, because if I remember correctly, Byrd sat out like the first month and a half, and then he came in like week 7, and then that was how he became a free agent or whatever. So
your logic makes sense. I'm still going to say true. I don't have any kind of evidence other than just like it's just a gut. Somehow, some way, it's going to linger. He ain't coming to camp this week. He ain't coming to training camp to start, or maybe he does. Let me take that back. He might report. He might be what they call a hold-in now. He might have and I'm using air quotes for people listening, he might have a calf injury or a quad injury or a toe injury or something where he ain't doing shit, but he's going to report to not get fined. I do think somehow, some way they work out something to get him through this year, which, by the way, quick side note, the Bills got every motivation too. Let him leave. You're probably getting, and let him get a good contract. If you are Brandon Beane, your goal is to get him to play this year and then hope he gets a $20 million contract somewhere else, because he's going to give you a 3rd-round comp pick probably if he does. So I think it's going to be true. I think it's going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire, but ultimately I do think he's going to play Week 1 for the Bills. All right, true or false? The Sean McDermott 9/11 reference, reported by Tyler Dunn a couple of years ago, at some point will be brought up during HBO's Hard Knocks this summer.
Oh, false.
Think false?
Yeah, I don't think if it was last year and it was like the year after that all happened, I could say maybe true, but I think it's too old, the story. And I don't know how many people really know about it publicly. Like when I say publicly, like it happened so long ago, and then the Bills turned it on like right away, and then it kind of got forgotten. I don't think it's going to be mentioned by them. No, not by Hard Knocks. No.
I don't know, man. I'm going to say false, but I'm not 100% confident in it because it was a pretty big story. And if they're having a kind of Sean McDermott public image rebranding, which he's done a lot of. We've talked about this, man. He's been doing a couple podcasts lately. He just seems a lot more personable and accessible than he's ever been.
Super personable. He's the man.
Well, I wonder if that, personality transformation gets mentioned on HBO. And
I don't think it's going to be, that's not going to be used as that. I hear what you're saying, like a story.
If you're Tyler Dunn, do you hope it is?
Probably. Well, why not? The people go to do his website and read the article again.
I don't think he gives a shit.
I'll tell you this though. I definitely think they're gonna definitely play Jeremy White's interview with Brandon Beane. Yeah. That's gonna get played
100%. That might be in episode 1 right away. All right. So you're gonna say false for that. Mm-hmm. True or false? 20 years from now, Josh Allen is the lone Hall of Famer on this 2025 current Buffalo Bills roster.
20. Okay, so who's on the roster that's close to a Hall of Fame?
Yeah, so basically what I'm asking you is there anyone else on this roster that ends up someday in the Hall of Fame? And obviously you're projecting. No one, as of right now, except probably Josh, would make it tomorrow.
Yeah, no one's making it right now. So you're talking other guys. No, I'm going to say false. It's just going to be Josh.
So you think Josh Allen years from now, when we look back at this?
Yes. Oh, so team, true. Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
last
so true.
year would have been false because it would have been Vaughn, but Vaughn's gone.
Yeah. Who do you got? Who do you want?
Who do I think has Hall of Fame potential? I guess that's what it comes down to here. Keon Dawkins. Keon Dawkins. He's one of the game's best tackles. He's had sustained success. He's popular.
Has he been an All-Pro? He hasn't been an All-Pro, though. He's not going to All-Pro.
No, he hasn't been an All-Pro. He's been a Pro Bowler a couple times. Yeah, look, and his career is also not over. He's still got hopefully 2 to 3 more years. I'm just thinking of possibilities.
Who on this roster would go on the Wall of Fame? That might be a little bit like who would go on the Wall of Fame for you? Josh?
Dion.
Ed Oliver?
No. Ed Oliver's
Matt Milano?
Pretty good player. Matt Milano, injuries killed him. Trey White, I would say the same thing. If it weren't for the injuries, Trey and Milano, probably.
If Milano has a great year, I can definitely hear that conversation. Maybe. Hey, look, Phil Hansen's on the wall.
About the Wall of Fame?
The Wall of Fame, yes. That's what I'm talking about. Wall of Fame. That's what I'm talking about. Like Dion, you got Dawkins on the Wall of Fame. I agree with that. We don't even know if they're going to have a Wall of Fame.
What we're basically saying right now during this discussion, without fully realizing it, is there's no great young Hall of Fame caliber potential players on this roster right now. Like a guy like who's like Cole Bishop, you know what I mean? Or Keon Coleman or something like that. There's not even a thought that those guys could become elite. By saying Hall of Famer, you're talking elite, obviously.
Yeah.
Just makes you really appreciate Josh Allen a lot more, doesn't it? Year after year, this team is where it's at with because of the quarterback, man. He's the MVP, and there's just not a lot of all-world talent.
It makes you appreciate it, but it also makes you annoyed because they don't have all-world talent around him.
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes had Travis Kelce, who's going to the Hall of Fame. He has Chris Jones, who's better than any defensive player the Bills have.
Big Papa Bill said Stephon Diggs. Obviously, he's not a Buffalo Bill. He hasn't been for a while.
Yeah, we're just talking about this year's roster.
Is Stephon Diggs a Hall of Famer?
What was he at? 4, 5? No.
6. He's had 6.
5 great
seasons.
years. No, it's tough, man, for wide receivers. Like I think you got to be good for like a decade and be in the top 5, 10 with the way passing is now. And now he's hurt. No, he's not a Hall of Famer.
I agree. Carl Tomlin in the live chat said, who will win Deion Dawkins' new Protector of the Year award this year? Not Deion Dawkins. That's who's going to win it, not him. Somebody else will. Not Deion. I like Deion, but he's not the best pass blocker in the NFL. So
sure.
Not going to happen. Mark said Diggs ain't a Hall of Famer, but he was a lead here. That's true.
True.
That
very
is true.
If he was still here and he didn't get hurt and let's just say last year was the same as the years before, yes, I could see that happening possibly if he was
understanding, Joe, that the Wall of Fame's pretty much dead. It's not going to happen. I don't.
Yeah, they're not. I've complained about this before. I'm going to complain about it again. I don't know what the fuck is going on with the Wall of Fame. They haven't put anyone up there in 12 years since Terry bought it. Terry's weird with nostalgia. He claims he's Mr. Nostalgia guy, and he fucking doesn't do shit. No. I'm not happy with the Wall. The Wall of Fame hasn't had anyone in the last 12 years. I know the Bills were pathetic. Eric Mole should be on it. Reuben Brown should be on it. We can do a damn podcast about who should be on it.
Sure.
And if they're not bringing it to the stadium, I hate that idea. I think it's stupid. I'm sure what they'll do is they'll have some sort of fucking, I don't know. I just dropped my mic. They'll probably have some sort of, I don't know, a fucking bathroom with a bunch of plaques in there while you're pissing to look over. They're oh, this guy's in the Wall of Fame while I'm pissing on it or whatever. Anyways.
Ariel Grande's pissed. He says, pissed, tune in late. We'll watch it later, but I don't mind spoilers. Did we fire McDermott? Said, I don't know. No, we did not fire Sean McDermott. There's your spoiler.
Sorry, Mr. Grande. Tonight.
Anyway, I was asking because I feel like Stephon Diggs was certainly headed towards a Wall of Fame career with the Bills, but the way it ended, that would be a no. That would be a no. Poyer and Hyde, we'll save that for another day. I want to get to a couple other things here before we get out here. All right, so the Pittsburgh Steelers signed Aaron Rodgers this week. True or false? The Pittsburgh Steelers make the playoffs this year with Aaron Rodgers.
Who can take over the Steelers spot? They made the playoffs last year. I think Rodgers is better than Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. Not by a lot. I'm going to say false. I think the Bengals are going to take their spot. So, no, I'm going to say false.
I agree. I'm going to give you a hot take right now. I had to look at it to make sure.
I know you hate Rodgers, so I know it's going to be Rodgers is going to die on the field.
I do hate him, but I'm also capable of being objective. Okay,
No,
you're not wrong. I think he is better than Russell Wilson. I don't think he's better than Justin Fields, by the way, but I do think he's better than Russell Wilson. I objectively think that he's washed up and not good anymore. All the other stuff, the personality deficiencies, the finger pointing at his teammates, calling them out, all that shit aside, I just also don't think he's a very good quarterback anymore. Here's my hot take. Pittsburgh, forget about making the playoffs because I don't think they're going to either. The Pittsburgh Steelers have not had a losing season since 2003.
Wow.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to have a losing season this year with Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback. I think the guy's a loser. I think he's loser energy, and I think it's going to rub off on this team who's going to struggle. And playing in a division with Baltimore and Cincinnati, third place, losing record, 8-9 or whatever. All right, true or false? We've talked about Kevin Adams. He was on your Mount Flushmore.
Yes.
Kevin Adams will be the Buffalo Sabres general manager 365 days from today.
False.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't think they're making the. I think the only reason why Terrence has him, he doesn't want to pay him to sit home, and his contract runs out next year. And I think he'll axe him, and then he'll bring the new guy who they got from Columbus will be the guy. That's how I feel. I don't think they're making the playoffs next year. I mean, there's all these rumblings that they're going to make all these moves. That's been happening the last 3 years. It feels like on fucking Jeff Barrick, where the hell those guys are in Canada, are like, oh, the Sabres are making calls, and okay, well, I'll believe it when I see it. So I think he'll be gone. I don't think he's gonna get an extension.
We spent the first half of the show talking about potential mandates on Sean McDermott. I feel highly confident in saying there'll be a mandate on Kevin Adams to make the playoffs. I think if the Sabres make the playoffs, Kevin Adams will have his job.
I do. I agree with that, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say false as well. But, yeah, there is, I guarantee you there's a mandate on Kevin Adams. By the way, spoiler alert, too. Tomorrow's show, I'm going to have Chris Ostrander on, and we'll be talking plenty of Sabres.
Yeah, tell Ostrander, I know you won't remember, tell him to stop kissing Tom Golisano's ass. Because I know he and I have argued about that because he thinks Golisano saved the team. I don't believe him. He'll tell you some golf story that he golfed with some guy that told him he was going to move the team. I don't believe that for a second. Golisano sucks.
I'll tell you.
The hell with you,
one of the things I'm going to talk to him about. So I had Matthew Fairburn on the show last week. He wrote a great article in The Athletic about.
Yes, you were pandering all week about it. I know.
Yeah, I was
heard.
Pandering. I did my share of pandering. Big Fairburn fan, man. Good writer. Good interview. Fun guy.
Bet you bought him chicken fingers and not me. Go ahead.
Craig Cannelly, who was the Sabres social media director for a handful of years, sent me a message, and he has a Substack, and he put out an article in response to Matthew's article because he worked on the inside.
Yeah, he was a social media guy.
Yeah, sort of. He refuted a lot of what Matthew said, in a respectful way, did a lot of defending of the Sabres. Some things I thought were good, like, hey, you have a positive attitude about the team. Maybe I should try that. I'm so sick of just being miserable every time I think about the Sabres. But he also had some things in there that were a little, you call me a panderer. I mean, come on now. I'm going to have Chris on tomorrow. We're going to double on some of that stuff.
Ostrander's he'll definitely have takes about CK. But yes, I actually read that. I got a sent actually before our podcast. I read some of it. It was a little too much pandering, but fine, whatever. I get it. He worked there.
Well, he was talking about he was defending the Sabres not spending money, saying that the time will come when they do. I'm like, well, you missed the playoffs a couple of years ago by 1 point. Shouldn't that have been the time to go all in and start spending some money? I mean, what are we doing here? Anyway, there were some good points, some bad points in that, and I kind of want to break that down.
I like Ralph Wilson's comment here. Golisano bought the Sabres to get votes for when he ran for governor. Yes, he definitely did it for political clout. Then that idiot left, and then he wanted to sue a town because geese were shitting on his property. The guy's a douche. I hate him. He sucks. He's so lucky. Terry Pegula is a mess because like I said, Trump to Bush. Sorry, I'm getting political here. I don't care what you say, but that's how I would read it into it. Go ahead.
Well, I'll give you credit. You went almost an hour and a half without getting political. Let's play Let the audience play along here a little bit. Carl had a true or false. We'll throw it up there, man. He says the Buffalo Bills finally defeat the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game and advance to the Super Bowl in 2025. We're going to make predictions 75,000 times between now and September, which is for fun. A little true or false out there right now. What are you saying right now? What are you saying today on June, what is it, June 8th, 9th, whatever the hell it is?
Yeah, I'm going to say false because the Bills are going to beat the Ravens to get to the Super Bowl.
Oh, okay.
I do. Hey, look, I like the Bills this year. I really think they made some improvements. The schedule works, kind of in their way. I don't know about the defense, with both, but their defense I think is better. I don't know how much better, but you got 17 back there. Not many other teams in the AFC I feel got super good. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not like you who has an IV to Bills to NFL Twitter and like I do because I have a life.
Slayer 12 Joe says just Joe from Queens, is your mic supposed to look like R2D2?
It kind of does look like R2D2. Let me tell you the story about this mic and then we'll get the hell out of here. Hopefully, Pat. He's so annoying and he just talks my ear off. I'm like, Pat, I got this microphone, and Pat for like a day. Just private message me, the mic's not good because it's one of these mics. I literally was going to the bathroom. I had to read like a novel about why my microphone stunk. I was like, dude, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. I'm like, I don't listen to you about anything except chicken wings reviews. And you're lucky I even listened to you about that. By the way, I'm up. Don't forget, I'm going to be up there in like 2-3 weeks. So I want to do a remote somewhere where I get free food and I get my ass kissed. You should pander to me. Like at whatever, Sunny Reds,
Imperial,
La Pizza or Imperial, one of those. And I want like unlimited beer. Like I want like a pitcher next to me on you, not free. I want it on you. I want to see you break out your Velcro wallet and put a fucking 10 on the fucking bar and be like, this is for my buddy Joe that we're friends, allegedly. You owe me a drink. I do all these podcasts and I don't get paid. I could be on the couch with my wife watching the Tonys. And no, I'm here with you.
I thought you said it was the Emmys. Oh, no, it's the Tonys.
It's the Tonys. I don't give a shit about the Emmys.
All right. Anyways. Well, I'll tell you one thing about Imperial or Sunnies. They actually got beer you like. Like, they got good taps, not just Bud Light and Coors Light and Mich Ultra, which is the shit that you like.
Drink. Yeah, pandering Patrick.
One last little quick question here, and then we're definitely going to bounce. We're both wrestling guys. I saved this to the very end. True or false, Seth Rollins and Naomi were the Money in the Bank winners last night being Saturday night. It was true or false? It's the right call.
Yes, true. Okay. I like Naomi. I think she's great. Seth, I kind of was hoping Solo would win because I thought you could have done some fun things with like Cena and their history and Jay. And it kind of would have lit him up because he's cooled down a little bit, but it's obvious they're kind of shaking up for Fatu. But yeah, those were the right calls. Yeah. Weren't you supposed to ask me a question about like who you want me to get you on? Like,
I do. Yeah, that was the last thing.
Okay, sorry. Pat gives me a rundown. I'm not supposed to tell you guys about.
No, everybody knows that. But okay. I'm with you. I think Naomi was 100% the right call. Yeah. Naomi for sure. Seth, I don't know that I would have went there. I don't think that he needs it. He's going to cash in quick. He'll be champ now within the next couple of weeks for sure. I thought LA Knight was going to win. My cousin texted me earlier and says, I want to love something more than Triple H hates LA Knight. I thought that was actually kind of funny. Yeah, last question. Not a true or false, but a question. This is a fill in the blank for Joe and for everybody, I guess, too. A guest I should try to hunt down for an episode of Talking Buffalo would be blank. Who should I try to hunt down? Who should I try to get as a guest on the show?
You've never gotten Mike Shope on. And I think, and I'm talking realistically, I would get him on because he's been on the radio for like 20 years and he can talk to you about Empire Sports. I would really like to hear about his NSA stories and Empire. He would be one. And I'll give you another one, a bonus one. Bob Kaczynski, I'm Facebook friends with him somehow. And he always posts like old videos. And he's the old Channel 7 guy. And then he went to Empire as a general manager. And I don't know, I think he would have a lot of great stories about the Regas family and kind of going into like how that Regas was very close to making my Mount Flushmore, by the way, but I gave it to Regas because Regas, he did steal, but he stole and he gave it to the Sabres and paid Hasek and he paid a lot of players during a time frame when no teams were making money unless we were a big market. So that's why he did not make my Mount Flushmore, even though he's convict and he went to jail for whatever. But Those are the two. I would say Show. Mike, because you've never gotten him on here before. And
I've never had a conversation with him before.
I know you don't want. Yeah, I mean, you're going to be. I'd have to send you questions because you're just going to pander the whole time and be like, "What's your favorite wing spot?"
John Sanders in the live chat said Terry Pegula. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. Yeah, that'd be great.
Pegula, I'd love to have Jessica Pegula on the show.
Oh God.
And talk.
There were Bills beat bros like who were tweeting about her freaking being in the tournament last week at like 7 a.m. I'm like, what? You guys set your alarm at like 6 a.m. to watch this?
She didn't do good. She lost.
She lost. Oh, that's why I didn't see.
In the second round. Oh. And speaking of not doing well, dude from Buffalo, a bantamweight in UFC, Patchy Mix or something like that, big name, pretty polarizing figure in UFC. It didn't go well for him Saturday night. He got his ass.
Go Bills. Go Buffalo.
Ass beat. Ralph Wilson Sr. said, Slick Rick. Fun little story. I did try to reach out to him, actually. I went through somebody, and they said he's not comfortable doing, like, these sit-down type podcast interviews, and he didn't want to do it. I did try, but we'll see, man. I like the Shope idea. Maybe I'll try to reach out to him. I'd love to get him and the Bulldog together. The problem is they do a show for 3 or 4 hours 5 nights a week, so it would be be difficult. But I do
like when you mix people up when you have show. But the thing is, you have not done any like a show like background thing, like because everyone else you've kind of done, and he's the only guy it feels like you haven't really done with in terms of like the main. Like we get like the new person coming into like local news that you do, but it's like like what am I going to? It's not as interesting when someone just starts there. Like it's like okay, like you don't have like a long sports background, whereas he does. Right. But he's the one guy you have in it. Did you ever do Bucky?
Yes.
You did Bucky
early on. He was still at the Buffalo News. I still think he worked for.
You should get Jerry. I don't give a shit. You know what? You should get Jerry Sullivan on. See what he's been doing since he got canceled. I want to know what he's been up to. Like, get your first story because he never talked about it. Like, get to that on there. Let's find out how he.
I had Jerry Sullivan on episode 50, which was September 4th, 2018. And I remember that because I was in Florida. I was living in Florida, and unprovoked, he immediately went into a rant against the Buffalo News because he had the layoffs. And they took away his job. They fired the columnist, and he was still fired up about that. So he went on. And I looked it up while you were talking. I did actually have Bucky Gleason on once. So it was episode 66. Back in November of 2018. I've talked to him a couple times. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I have talked to him a few times throughout the years.
I want to know what he's up to. I mean, he does real estate, I believe. So get him on. See what his post life is like after the news and the sports. And I'm sure he likes it a lot more than working there. But that's
yeah, I agree, man. All right, I'm gonna get on some of that. That's gonna do it for this episode too. I don't think there is.
Oh, you know what? Reach out to Chris Brown. Be like, Chris, you work for One Bills Lie. Like, how's that like? And get him on.
Would you expect that? Let me ask you this: would you expect that to be? And I'm not against Chris Brown, but yet he works for the Bills. Would you expect that to be? I don't know, an intense type interview, a critical style interview.
No, because you know what you'll do. This is what Pat will do. He go, some fans feel you're not objective because you work for the Bills, but I think you're great. I like you a lot. What do you say to that? And that's how you'll phrase it. That would be your heart.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that's how you're gonna do it, bro. That's how you're gonna do it. You're gonna put the heat on the fans who think he's a shill and think, oh, he's evil. That's what a lot of journalists will do. You ever listen to like McDermott's pressers and like they want to be critical? They'll be like, fans think you should, you're kind of conservative. Oh, what do you say to that? Oh, it's like, shut up, and get balls.
Tooch said I should try to get Steve Tasker on.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
John Sanders says you should have. And this is Joe's boy, Cole Beasley.
Yeah, you love that boy, that zombie. What's he up to these days? Is he still pandering?
I don't know. Let's find
pandering
out.
to Trump probably or someone. I don't know.
You know what? I'm going to reach out and see what I can find out, man. But anyway, all right. On that
Eric Molds, get him on. Aren't you Facebook friends with him? Get Eric Molds on.
I don't know what we talked a couple times about having him on the show, and it just never came about. And I haven't talked to him in a few years now.
You know what I want you to do? I want you to craft an email and send it to Bill's PR and see if they'll give you some players to come on the show. Look, if Cover One can get like people to break down the film, why can't you get some shitty player to talk about their childhood? Like you could do it. I don't really
like talk. I've only had one active player on the show ever while he was still active with the Bills. I've had a ton of
Dorn Dickerson.
No, Reed Ferguson was on the show. He's been on the show.
Wow. Okay.
I've had a lot of former Bills on. I don't like having current players on. They're not really typical because they're not really.
Why are you
scared? Not really good interview. What are they going to say? You know what I mean? They're not going to say much. So
I guess.
Anyway.
I mean, you could ask about their life story and their favorite. Come on, you could ask about their favorite wings. That's what you want to do.
All right, man. All
right, let's get out of here. I'm tired.
We're done here. Thank you, everyone, as always, especially in the video side, the live chat people who have been hanging out with us for the last hour and 40 minutes or so. Of course, everyone who's listening to this sometime on Monday, hopefully. I will be back. New episode. Chris Ostrander is going to join me tomorrow. Joe from Queens. I'm Patrick. Thank you very much.